Okay, then let's continue. Human health and disease, chapter 7 of class 12 biology. It's part 2. So we'll continue from where I left off yesterday. I had completed malaria. Now coming to Ascaris, the common roundworm, and Wuchereria, the filarial worm, are some of the helminths which are known to be pathogenic to man. Ascaris is an intestinal parasite causing ascariasis. Okay, both these worms, Ascaris and Wuchereria, one is the roundworm, other is the filarial worm. Both are known to be pathogenic. They are both parasites that infect the man. Ascaris is an intestinal parasite. It will attach to the intestine of the man and causes a disease called ascariasis. Symptoms of ascariasis are internal bleeding, muscular pain, fever, anemia, blockage of intestinal passage, etc. The eggs of the parasite are excreted along with the feces of infected persons, which contaminate soil, water, plants, etc. A healthy person acquires this infection through contaminated water, vegetables, fruits, etc. Wuchereria, that's about ascariasis. Basically, it's an intestinal worm infestation. The ascaris worm will infest the intestine of the man and it will cause internal bleeding, blockage of the intestine, muscular pain, abdominal pain, anemia, fever, etc. And it will lay eggs, and these eggs will contaminate the feces, and the feces, if it is dropped somewhere near soil, it will contaminate the soil, water, plants, etc. And the person will get this disease from eating contaminated food, vegetables, fruits, or drinking contaminated water. That's about ascariasis. Now coming to Wuchereria, the elephantiasis one. Wuchereria, Wuchereria brancofti, and Wuchereria malai. The filarial worm causes a slowly developing chronic inflammation of the organs in which they live for many years. Basically, this worm will infest the lymph nodes of a person, and in that it will get settled there, and it will slowly cause swelling of the organs, or basically the limbs. This is called as chronic inflammation. It's not an acute disease. It's not going to go down or reduce in some time. It is a chronic disease that will slowly cause the inflammation of the leg, developing chronic inflammation of the organs in which these worms will live for many years. In malaria, we saw about types: protozoan Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium falciparum, and something else, Plasmodium malaria. So these are the three types in Plasmodium, that is malaria causing protozoan. But in worms as well, there are types in Wuchereria. That is, Wuchereria is a filarial worm. There are types that can cause this disease. That is Wuchereria Bancrofti, and Wuchereria malai. These are the types, and it causes chronic inflammation of the organs in which they live for many years. This is a diagram showing inflammation in one of the lower limbs due to elephantiasis caused by these worms. The inflammation is very severe and it almost makes the person's limb look like an elephant's limb, hence the name elephantiasis. Usually, the lymphatic vessels of the lower limbs, and the disease is called elephantiasis or filariasis. The genital organs are also often affected. resulting in gross deformities like this. The pathogens are transmitted to a healthy person through the bite by a female mosquito vector. Okay, this worm is transmitted, or this disease is transmitted through mosquitoes. The worm itself will get transmitted through mosquitoes vectors. Many fungi belonging to, okay, there's not much given information given, that's all. It will get transferred via vectors, so we should kill mosquitoes so that we do not get this disease. Anyways, now many fungus belonging to the genera Microsporum, Trichophyton, Epidermophyton are responsible for ringworms. Okay, there are fungal infestations that lead to disease like skin infections, like a disease which is kind of popular called the ringworm, which is not caused by worms but caused by fungus. It affects the area of the skin. These ringworms are mostly caused by fungi of the genus or genera Microsporum, Trichophyton, and epidermo skin outer layer phyton, etc., which is one of the most common infectious disease in man, which is very common, but it's also very infectious. What is the disease? It is appearance of dry, scaly lesions on in various parts of the body, such as skin, nails, scalp, are the main symptoms of the disease. Symptoms of the disease, we will see like this kind of dry scaly region or lesion on the skin. It doesn't necessarily only need to be in this region. It can be in any other parts like the scalp, meaning the top of our head, the nails, and many other regions, even the genital areas. So it is very infectious as well. These lesions are accompanied by intense itching. Heat and moisture help these fungi to grow, which makes them thrive in skin fold, such as those in the groin or between the toes. Ringworms are generally acquired from soil or by using towels, clothes, or even comb of an infected individual. Basically, they are infectious and they can be acquired from the soil when we touch infected soil, or we use towels, clothes, or even a comb of an infected person. Maintenance of personal and public hygiene is very important for prevention and control of many infectious diseases. Measures for personal hygiene include keeping the body clean, consumption of clean drinking water, food, vegetables, fruits, etc. Public hygiene includes proper disposal of waste, excreta, periodic cleaning and disinfection of water reservoirs, pools, cesspools, and tanks, and observing standard practice of hygiene in public catering. Basically, if all the above diseases could be prevented by following this personal and public hygiene, we saw many diseases here. The first one being, I think, common cold. No, we saw the first one being typhoid. These are spread by Salmonella typhi, a pathogenic bacteria, and they spread by uh, they enter small intestine through food water contaminated, where they can be spread through contaminated food. So hygiene is important here as well. They enter the small intestine, enter blood and other organs, and cause fever. It is typhoid fever confirmed by viral test. Now, Streptococcus pneumoniae causing pneumonia is also an infectious disease that is spread through droplets of the infected person, saliva, or other bodily fluids. And so here as well, maintaining personal hygiene. It can be avoided, and common cold. Everyone knows how to avoid common cold. The infect nose respiratory system and it's infectious. Personal hygiene here as well is important by objects such as pens, books, doorknobs transmitted through contaminated objects such as keyboard or mouse. Now, malaria is caused by female Anopheles mosquito. The mosquitoes can be prevented by having a clean environment. The mosquitoes do not thrive in clean environments. They only thrive in very shady and unclean environments. So if we clean our surroundings and keep the cleaning keep the surroundings very clean, the mosquitoes can be avoided, thereby avoiding the disease malaria as well. And ascaris, we saw it was contaminated by eggs or contaminated food, water, fruits, vegetables, etc. Meaning, if we keep our surrounding, if we maintain hygiene here, we can prevent ascariasis, filariasis, or this is also by mosquitoes, spread by mosquitoes. So meaning lack of mosquitoes, no disease. And ringworm obviously spread by touching contaminated soil or not maintaining proper hygiene or sharing clothes, towel, comb with infected person. So maintaining public and personal hygiene can make you avoid most kind of diseases. These measures are particularly essential where the infectious agents are transmitted through food and water, such as typhoid, amoebiasis, ascariasis. In case of airborne diseases such as pneumonia and common cold, in addition of the above measures, close contact with the infectious person or their belongings should be avoided. Wait a second, I think did not see one disease about yes, Entamoeba histolytica, protozoan parasite that infests the large intestine, causes amoebiasis. Symptoms: okay, houseflies act as mechanical carriers to transmit parasite from feces of infected person to food and food product. In case of airborne diseases such as pneumonia, common cold, in addition to above measures such as, let's read them again, maintenance of personal and public hygiene. Hygiene is very important for prevention and control of many infectious diseases. Measures for personal hygiene include keeping the body clean, consumption of clean drinking water, food, vegetables, fruits, etc. Public hygiene includes proper disposal of waste and excreta, periodic cleaning and disinfection of water reservoirs, pools, cesspools, tanks, observing standard practices of hygiene. In public catering, there is a story about typhoid Mary. These measures are particularly essential where the infectious agents are transmitted through food and water, such as amoebiasis and ascariasis. In case of airborne diseases such as pneumonia and common cold, in addition to the above measures, close contact with infected persons' belongings should be avoided. For diseases such as malaria and filariasis that are transmitted through insect vectors. The most important measure to control or eliminate the vectors and their breeding places. For diseases such as malaria or filariasis, elephantiasis, that are transmitted through insect vectors like mosquitoes, the most important measure is to control or eliminate the vectors and their breeding places. This can be achieved by avoiding stagnation of water in around the residential areas, regular cleaning of household coolers, use of mosquito nets, introducing fishes like gambusia in ponds that feed on mosquito larvae, spraying of insecticides in ditches, drainage areas and swamps, etc. In addition, doors and windows should be provided with wire mesh to prevent the entry of mosquitoes. Such precautions have become more important, especially in light of recent widespread insect incidents of vector-borne Aedes mosquito diseases like dengue and chikungunya in many parts of India. The advancement made in biological science have armed us to effectively deal with many infectious diseases. The use of vaccines and immunization programs have enabled us to completely eradicate a deadly disease like smallpox. A large number of other infectious diseases like polio, diphtheria, pneumonia, tetanus have been controlled to a large extent by the use of vaccines. Biotechnology, about which you will read more in chapter 10, is at the verge of making available newer and safer vaccines. Discovery of antibiotics and various other drugs has also enabled us to effectively treat infectious diseases. That's about that. It's just basic information how to prevent or basically public hygiene and personal hygiene, and how to prevent mosquito breeding places, insect, and basically common knowledge, nothing more. Now coming to the next main topic, that is immunity. Every day we are exposed to large number of infectious agents. However, only a few of these exposures result in a disease. Why is that happening? Why doesn't every exposure to pathogen, why does every pathogen not cause us diseases? Why? This is due to the fact that the body is able to defend itself from most of the foreign agents that are pathogens. This overall ability of the host to fight the disease causing organisms conferred by the immune system is called immunity. Immunity is of two types: innate immunity and acquired immunity. Now, we have two types of immunity: innate immunity and acquired immunity. Okay, let's study or start with innate immunity. Innate immunity is non-specific type of defense that is present at the time of birth. This is accomplished by providing different types of barriers to the entry of foreign agents into our body. Innate immunity consists of four types of barriers. Okay, what is innate immunity? As the name suggests, innate immunity is something that the child is born with birth, with at birth itself. It is not like specifically targeting any special disease like malaria or chikungunya or whatever it might be. It is basically immunity against all kind of pathogens, basic steps or basic immunity against all kind of diseases. That is called as innate immunity. It tries to defend the body from any and all kind of pathogens. Innate immunity consists of four types of barriers. These barriers are physical barriers. The first barrier is called the physical barrier, and obviously, as the name says, it is skin on our body is the main barrier which prevents entry of the microorganism, mucus coating of the epithelium lining, the respiratory, gastrointestinal, and urinogenital tracts also help in trapping microbes entering our body. Okay, physical barriers. Skin is the main barrier which prevents entry of microorganisms. Our skin, which has hair, which has uh, many layers of epithelium, and main function of skin prevent every and all kind of microorganism. That does not necessarily mean it will always succeed, but it will try its best to prevent all kinds of microorganism entry into our body. And there is also mucus coating of epithelium lining in the respiratory, gastrointestinal, and urinogenital tracts. This helps in trapping the microbes entering our body. That is that. There's not much thing to say about it. Okay, coming to the second barrier, physiological barriers like acid in the stomach, saliva in the mouth, tears from the eye, all prevent microbial growth. One of the main reason there is HCl, that is the concentrated hydrochloric acid in our stomach, is for a specific enzyme to act on the food and make the food, like for processing of the food, which is not really required for us. But the second main reason there is HCl in our stomach is to kill every and all kind of pathogens. As it is very concentrated acid, not many organism or microorganism can survive in the concentrated acid, and thus they will die. And this is not only true for stomach acid, it is true for saliva in the mouth, and even tears in the eye. Tears from the eye prevent microbial growth. Otherwise we might see cases of microbial growth or fungus growth on eyes, but that is prevented due to the tears from the eyes. Now, coming to third barrier, cellular barriers. Certain types of leukocytes, WBC, of our body, like polymorphonuclear leukocytes, PMNL neutrophils, and monocytes, and natural killer type of lymphocytes in the blood, as well as macrophages in tissue, can phagocytose and destroy microbes. Basically, we saw the first physical barrier, skin mucus coatings. Then second barrier, physiological, that is stomach acid, saliva, and tears. Now third, we are coming to cellular barriers or cellular defense. This is this is actually the most known or thought of defense when people think of immunity. They think immunity is only due to white blood cells fighting off the diseases or destroying pathogens, microbes, etc. But it is only a part of the whole immunity. That is the cellular barriers with leukocytes called WBC or white blood cells. These consist of these. There are many types of WBC which we have studied in class 11 blood circulation chapter, which we will not discuss right now, but some are given here, such as PMNL neutrophil, polymorphonuclear leukocyte, macrophage, monocyte, natural killer white blood cell. All of these can destroy and phagocytose microbes. Now coming to the fourth kind of barrier, cytokine barriers. Virus infected cell secrete proteins called interferons which protect non-infected cell from further viral infection. It is not given how they protect, but it is given they will protect. Basically, the fourth kind of barrier is from virus infected cell. Virus infected cells, like if there are certain virus infected cells, these certain virus infected cells will secrete proteins. These proteins are called as interferons. These interferons will alarm the other cells, other surrounding cells or non-infected cells, from for protecting themselves from bacteria or virus from further viral infection. That is a cytokine barrier. That's about innate immunity, the physical, the psychological, physiological, the cellular, and cytokine. Now coming to acquired immunity. Acquired immunity, on the other hand, is pathogen specific. Now we saw that the innate immunity is not pathogen specific, and it tries to defend like us from every and all kind of pathogen attacks. But acquired immunity is not like that. Acquired immunity targets specific cells, specific diseases, and instantly obliterates them. So let's see how it does that. Acquired immunity, on the other hand, is pathogen specific. It is characterized by memory. This means when our body encounters a pathogen for the first time, it produces a response. Before that, let's see the antigen body. Antibody molecule, not antigen. Structure of an antibody molecule. Before going to the acquired immunity, let's just see the structure of an antibody molecule. The structure of an antibody molecule is consisting of two chains. These two that I highlighted are called as heavy chains, represented by H1 and H2, I think, or basically just H, heavy chain. And these chains are called light chains or smaller chains, and they are connected by disulfur bonds. If we see, that is the bonds, and this is heavy chain. This is the antigen binding site. This whole molecule is an antibody, and this is the antigen binding site, both of these. And these are pathogen specific. As for a specific pathogen, they will have a different antigen binding site. That is how they can depend on memory. Okay. Acquired immunity, on the other hand, is pathogen specific. It is characterized by memory. This means when our body encounters a pathogen for the first time, a response called primary response, which is of low intensity. Subsequent encounter with the same pathogen elicits a highly intensified secondary or anamnestic response. Basically, when we first encounter a specific pathogen, the response will be mild. The immunity will not respond very strongly, but it will develop a memory. It will develop a memory of that pathogen. If we survive after the attack of the pathogen, it will develop a memory of that pathogen and keep with it itself. Now next time when we meet the pathogen, the same pathogen again, this time it will produce a very high intensity response called as intensified secondary or anamnestic response. This is very strong, and it will immediately kill the pathogen. This is also the reason why if we get chicken pox for the first time, we can only get chicken pox once in a lifetime. Most of the people can only get chicken pox once in their lifetime. There is no second time. This is ascribed to the fact that our body appears to have a memory of the first encounter. The primary and secondary immune responses are carried out with the help of two special types of lymphocytes present in our blood, that is B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. Okay. This primary and secondary immune responses, that is the first time and second time immune responses, are carried out with the help of two special types of lymphocytes. They are present in our blood. They are called as B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. They are the one that carry out the responses. The B lymphocytes produce an army of proteins in response to in pathogens into our blood to fight with them. These proteins are called antibodies. The T cells themselves do not secrete antibodies but help B cell to produce them. Okay, basically these antibodies are produced by B cells. All the antibodies are produced by B cells, but T lymphocyte does not produce antibodies. It will help the B cell produce the antibodies. And these two cells help in carrying out the primary and secondary immune response. The B lymphocyte produce an army of proteins that are called antibodies that fight with the pathogen. These proteins are called antibodies. The T cells themselves do not secrete antibodies but help B cells to produce them. Each antibody molecule has 4 peptide chains. These are called peptide chains. 2 smaller called light chains and 2 longer chains called heavy chains. Hence, the antibody is represented as H2L2. Different types of antibodies are produced in our body: IgA, IgM, IgE, IgG. Basically, we can remember it as game, IgG, IgA, IgM, IgE. All the kind of antibodies. You just need to remember the game. A cartoon of an antibody is given in a figure 7.4. This is not how, this is just a cartoonish picture of an antibody representing their basic structure. Because these antibodies are found in the blood, the response is also called as humoral immune response. Because these are found in the blood, we call it as humoral immune response. I do not know how humoral is very related to blood, but let's ask. Humoral immune response is mediated by antibodies that is secreted by B lymphocytes. This term humoral comes from old medicine term humors, which refers to body fluid like blood lymph. Since antibodies are soluble proteins released into this fluid, many blood plasma and lymph, the immunity they provide is called as humoral immunity. Cell mediated by T lymphocytes, no antibodies involved directly, which act on infected cell, tumor cell. We saw that T lymphocytes do not produce antibodies, they just help B lymphocyte produce them. Okay, that's about that. This is one of the two types of four acquired immune response, antibody mediated. The second type is called as cell mediated immune response or cell mediated immunity. The T lymphocytes mediate CMI. It does not involve antibodies carried out by T lymphocytes, directly act on infected cell, tumor cell, or transplanted tissue. Helper T cell activate immune cells like these cytokines that are macrophages, monocytes, etc. They release cytokines to coordinate immune response, as I said, cytokines. Cytotoxic T cells, these directly kill infected cells. Macrophages and natural killer cells are activated by T cell cytokine, help destroy pathogens inside the host cells. Viral infection, because viruses live inside host cell, antibodies can't reach. Intracellular bacteria or protozoa, myobacterium, tuberculosis, cancer defense, destroying tumor cell, organ transplant rejection, different form, humoral immunity. Missile attack and commando attack. Okay, they warn nearby healthy cells. If there is such a mechanism, why do we even get cancer? Okay, then let's continue. That's about that. Now coming to cell-mediated immunity, the T lymphocytes mediate cell-mediated immunity. Very often, when some human organs like heart, eye, kidney, liver fail to function satisfactorily, transplantation is the only remedy to enable the patient to live a normal life. Then a search begins to find a suitable donor. Why is it that the organs cannot be taken from just anybody? Because T lymphocytes will not accept that. What is it that the doctors check? Grafts from just any source, an animal, another primate, or any human beings cannot be made, since the grafts will be rejected sooner or later. Tissue matching, blood group matching are essential before undertaking any graft transplant, and even after this, the patient has to take immunosuppressant all his her life. The body is able to differentiate self and non-self, and a cell-mediated immune response is responsible for the graft rejection. Okay, that's about that. Now coming to active and passive immunity, we saw about innate and acquired immunity. Innate immunity has four barriers: physical, physiological, cellular, cytokine. And acquired immunity, we have innate, I mean not innate, I mean we have cell mediated and humoral. Humoral is by antibodies, cell mediated is by T lymphocytes. Now coming to active and passive immunity under the subtopic under immunity, when a host is exposed to antigens, host is exposed to antigens, when a host is exposed to antigens, which may be in the form of living or dead microbes or other proteins, antibodies are produced in the host body. Antigens are basically the strain or coat of the protein, or basically just pathogens. When a host is exposed to these antigens or pathogens, which may be in the form of living or dead microbes or other proteins, antibodies are produced in the host body. This type of immunity is called as active immunity. Whenever we have a pathogen, it's kind of like B cells producing the antibodies. Antibodies will be immediately produced, and it's called active immunity. Active immunity is slow and takes time to give its full effective power response. Injecting the microbes deliberately during immunization or infectious organism gaining access into the body during natural infection induce active immunity. Basically, whenever a new pathogen enters, B cells will immediately start producing antibodies, or basically just they will just antibodies are produced in the host body. This is called as active immunity. It's active immunity is very slow. It takes time to give its full effective response. That is why immunization works so well. When we inject microbes which are dead and very weak into the body, these are new microbes, and the body will activate active immunity, and it will start to produce antibodies against this pathogen. Or even a natural infection, as body will start producing antibodies against this pathogen. When ready-made antibodies are directly given to protect the body against foreign agents, is called as passive immunity. Okay, the antibodies are already prepared, but they are not used. So the next time the person gets the disease, these antibodies along with newly produced antibodies will attack the pathogen, and the pathogen will die basically. This is called as passive immunity. Do you know why mother's milk is considered very essential for the newborn infant? The yellowish fluid, colostrum secreted by mother during the initial days of lactation, has abundant IgA antibodies to protect the infant. Basically, it is kind of granting passive immunity to the infant who do not have any kind of immunity. The fetus also receives some antibodies from their mother through the placenta during pregnancy. These are some example of passive immunity. Vaccination and immunization. The principle of immunization or vaccination is based on property of memory of the immune system. In vaccination, a preparation of antigenic proteins or pathogen or inactivated weakened pathogen are introduced into the body. The antibodies produced in the body against these antigens would neutralize the pathogenic agents during actual infection. The vaccines also generate memory B and T cells that recognize the pathogen quickly on subsequent exposure and overwhelm the invaders with massive production of antibodies. This is a passive immunity we saw. Okay, the antibodies produced in the body against these antigens, those dead and like the one we got from vaccine, would neutralize the pathogenic agents during actual infection. Vaccines generate memory B and T cells, recognize the pathogen quickly on subsequent exposure, and overwhelm the invaders with a massive production of antibodies. If a person is infected with some deadly microbes to which quick immune response is required, as in tetanus, we need to directly inject the performed antibodies. Like we saw that in antibodies are very crucial. The more the number of antibodies, the more the body can fight the pathogen or kill the pathogen. So in case if the person is in a deadly situation, a very critical situation, and antibodies are immediately required and we can't wait for the body to produce, the obvious solution is injecting more antibodies. Those performed already prepared antibodies are injected into the person so that they can directly kill the antigen or pathogen. Or an antitoxin, a preparation containing antibodies to the toxin. Even in cases of snake bites, injection which is given to the patient contain performed antibodies against the snake venom. Basically, snake venom is also for during snake bites, the injection which is given to the patient is actually a injection of antibodies which will neutralize the snake venom. This type of immunization is called as passive immunization. Recombinant DNA technology has allowed the production of antigenic polypeptides of pathogen in bacteria or yeast. Vaccines produced using this approach allow large-scale production and hence greater availability for immunization. Example, hepatitis B vaccine produced from yeast. Now, coming to allergies, when you have gone to few new place to a new place and suddenly you started sneezing, wheezing for no explained reason, and when you went away, your symptoms disappeared. Did this happen to you? Some of us are sensitive to some particles in the environment. The above mentioned reaction could be because of an allergy to pollen, mites, etc., which are different in different places. The exaggerated response of the immune system to certain antigen present in the environment is called as allergy. The exaggerated response of the immune system to certain antigens present in the environment is called as allergy. The substances to which such an immune response is produced are called allergens. The antibody produced to these are IgE type. The IgE type take care of the allergens. Common example of allergens are mites in dust, pollens, animal dander, etc. Symptoms of allergic reactions include sneezing, watery eyes, running nose, difficulty in breathing. Allergy is due to release of chemicals like histamine and serotonin from the mast cells. For determining the cause of the allergy, the patient is exposed to or injected with very small doses of possible allergens and the reaction studied. The use of drugs like antihistamine, adrenaline, and steroids quickly reduce the symptoms of allergy. Somehow, modern day lifestyle has resulted in lowering of immunity and more sensitivity to allergens. More and more children in metro cities of India suffer from allergies and asthma due to sensitivity to environment. This could be because of the protected environment provided early in life. Basically, what allergy is exaggerated response of the immune system. It is cause the release of Ig. We don't need to specifically study the responses of like what is the symptoms of allergy. We already all know that what are the symptoms of allergies. Now this the the like the antibodies which deal with these allergy are called as IgE antibodies, IgE type of antibodies, and the allergens are the one that causes the allergy. That can be pollen, dust, animal dandruff or dander, etc. And why we feel an inflammation or why we actually feel allergy symptoms is because chemicals like histamine and serotonin are released from the mast cells, which causes the actual reaction. Histamine and serotonin released by the mast cells, which cause the actual allergy. Histamine and serotonin. And treating the for treating this allergy symptoms, if the patient is injected with antihistamine and adrenaline along with steroids, the symptoms can be quickly reduced. That is for reducing symptoms. Now, as for determining the cause of the allergy, if we expose the patient with small doses of possible allergies and the reactions of the patient are studied, we can understand what is the cause of allergy and advise the patient to avoid the allergens. And something about metro cities of India has provided people here suffer from allergies and asthma due to sensitivity of the environment because of protected environment provided in early in life. That's that. Now coming to autoimmunity. Memory-based acquired immunity evolved in higher vertebrate based on the ability to differentiate foreign organism pathogen from self cells. While we still do not understand the basis of this, two corollaries of this ability have to be understood. One, higher vertebrates can distinguish foreign molecules as well as foreign organism. Most of the experimental immunology deals with this aspect. Two, sometimes due to genetic and other unknown reasons, the body attacks cell. This this results in damage of the body is called autoimmune disease. Rheumatoid arthritis, which affects many people in our society, is an autoimmune disease. Okay, memory based acquired immunity is basically what memory based acquired immunity is. This our body, which is very intelligent, has the ability to understand which is a pathogen and which is actually the cells of the body. If without it, there might have been very much disasters right now. So there are like two kinds of autoimmunity, and one, higher vertebrates can distinguish foreign molecules as well as foreign organism, and most of the experimental immunology deals with this aspect, that is immunity dealing with other like foreign organism. And secondly, there is also times due to some genetic reasons or some other unknown reason, due to some unspecific reason, the body cells will recognize the immunity will recognize body cells as foreign particles or foreign substances. It will get confused between body cells and foreign particles due to some unknown reasons that may be genetic, and due to which it will start attacking the body cells. The immunity itself will start attacking the body cells. This will cause this results in a damage to the body. This kind of disease is called as a autoimmune disease. And example is rheumatoid arthritis, which is seen by many people, which is seen in many people in our society. And most of the like the basis of how the basis of this acquired immunity can distinguish between cell and other foreign molecules is still not known, and the causes of autoimmune disorders is also not known. That is what they said. That's about that paragraph. Immune system in the body. The human immune system consists of lymphoid organs, tissues, cells, and soluble molecules like antibodies. As you have read, immune system is unique in the sense that it recognizes foreign antigens, responds to these members and remembers them. The immune system also plays an important role in allergic reactions, autoimmune diseases, and organ transplantation. Okay, the human immune system consists of lymphoid organs, tissues, cells, and antibodies. Immune system is unique in high vertebrates. It can recognize foreign antigens, responds to these, and remembers them. And the immune system also plays an important role in allergic reaction, autoimmune diseases, and organ transplantation. Okay, coming to lymphoid organs. These are the organs where origin or maturation and proliferation of lymphocytes occur. Lymphoid organs are the place where origin, maturation, and proliferation of lymphocytes occurs. That is the birth, growth, and reproduction of or replication of lymphocytes. That are lymphocytes are white blood cells. Wait, not white blood cells. We are talking about lymphocytes here. Lymphocytes and leukocytes are very different. Here we saw something about T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. So basically, these T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes are very important for our immunity. So where are these produced? They are produced in the lymphoid organs. These organs where origin, maturation, and proliferation of lymphocytes occur. The primary lymphoid organs are bone marrow, thymus, where immature lymphocytes differentiate into antigen sensitive lymphocytes. Okay, bone marrow is a lymphoid organ, thymus is a lymphoid organ. After maturation, the lymphocytes migrate. Okay, thymus is where immature lymphocytes differentiate into antigen sensitive lymphocytes. After maturation, the lymphocyte migrate to secondary lymphoid organs like the spleen, lymph nodes, tonsils, Peyer's patches or small intestine, and appendix. Okay, bone marrow and thymus are the main places for maturation of lymphocytes, where they become non-antigen specific to antigen sensitive lymphocytes. These are called primary lymphoid organs. Then they will migrate to spleen, patches of the small intestine, Peyer's patches, and tonsils, appendix, etc. What is the function of secondary lymphoid organs? They provide the sites for interaction of lymphocytes with the antigen. Like they provide the site where, like, if there's an antigen infestation, they will provide the site like for interaction with the antigen, which then proliferate to become effector cell. The location of various lymphoid organs in the human body is shown in figure 7.5. Diagrammatic representation of lymph nodes. These are lymphatic vessels. Thymus is here. Lymph nodes again. There is not much explanation about how the secondary lymphoid organs provide interaction with the antigen, nor how they proliferate to become effector cell, or what are effector cells. It's not given, I think. Okay, this is thymus. We know where bone marrow is, so no need for that. Anyways, now continue reading. The bone marrow is the main lymphoid organ where all blood cells, including lymphocytes, are produced. The thymus is a lobed organ located near the heart and beneath the breastbone. The thymus is quite large at the time of birth but keeps reducing in size with age, and by the time puberty is attained, it reduces to a very small size. Both bone marrow and thymus provide microenvironments for development and maturation of T lymphocytes. And thymus, it gradually degenerates as people grow older, and because of that, old people have considerably less immunity than younger people. By the time of puberty, it is reduced to a very small size. Bone marrow and thymus provide micro environments for development and maturation of T lymphocytes. The spleen is large bean-shaped organ. It mainly consists of lymphocytes and phagocytes. It acts as a filter of the blood by trapping blood-borne microorganisms. Spleen also has a large reservoir of erythrocytes. The lymph nodes are small solid structure located in the different points along the lymphatic system. Lymph nodes serve to trap the microorganism or other antigens which happen to get into the lymph and tissue fluid. Antigens trapped in the lymph node are responsible for the activation of lymphocytes present there and cause the immune response. Okay, they gave function of many organs here. We saw about thymus. It is like where like antigen, where basically lymphocytes mature. It's a primary lymphoid organ. It is a place where lymphocytes mature and become antigen specific. It becomes small as we grow in age, as our age advances. As for bone marrow, it is the place where both blood cells and lymphocytes are produced. That is about bone marrow. As for spleen, it is a large bean-shaped structure organ, and what spleen does, it filters the blood, and before that, it contains lymphocytes and phagocytes. Spleen has lymphocytes and phagocytes. It basically, because it has such an army of lymphocytes and phagocytes, it acts as a filter. Basically, it traps blood-borne microorganisms. Whatever the blood-borne microorganisms are there, it will catch them. And because it already has a large army of lymphocytes and phagocytes, the microorganism caught can say nothing but just die. It kind of acts as a filter of the blood by trapping blood-borne microorganism. That is the function of spleen. There is also, spleen has a large reservoir of erythrocytes, meaning red blood cells. Basically, it can replenish the blood cells. If it traps a large number of blood cells, then those blood cells will be reduced in the blood, so it might release more erythrocytes into the blood to balance the ones it actually captured. The lymph Now coming to the lymph nodes are small solid structures located at different points along the lymphatic system, basically. And what is the function of lymph nodes? It is to trap the microorganisms or other antigens. Whenever there is a pathogen or an antigen, as they leak into the lymph system, they will get trapped in the lymph nodes. And here, as they get trapped in the lymph nodes, the lymphocytes in the lymph nodes will get activated, they will get alerted, and they will start the massive immune response. Lymph nodes serve to trap the microorganisms or other antigens which happen to get into the lymph and tissue fluid. Antigens trapped in the lymph nodes are responsible for Antigens trapped in the lymph nodes are responsible for the activation of lymphocytes present there and cause the immune response. There is a lymphoid tissue also located within the lining of major tracts, the respiratory, digestive, and urinogenital tracts, called mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. It constitutes about 50% of the lymphoid tissue in human body. Malt, basically, this is a lining of lymphoid tissue present in all kind of major tracts like the respiratory, digestive, and urinogenital tracts, and it mainly consists it consists 50% of all the lymphoid tissue in the body. It is called as MALT, mucosa aligned associated lymphoid tissue. Mucosa associated lymphoid tissue. Now coming to the next topic, one of the most fatal and dangerous diseases, AIDS, an incurable disease as of now. The word AIDS stands for acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. This means deficiency of immune system acquired during the lifetime of an individual, indicating that it is not a congenital disease, meaning it's not like a genital disease or disease born from birth. It is acquired by the human. Syndrome means a group of symptoms or group of diseases. AIDS was first reported in 1981, and in the last 25 years or so, it has spread all over the world, killing more than 25 million people. AIDS is caused by human immunodeficiency virus called as HIV, a member of a group of viruses called the retroviruses, which have an envelope enclosing the RNA genome. Transmission of HIV infection generally occurs by sexual contact with infected person, transfusion of contaminated blood products, sharing infected needles as in case of intravenous drug abusers, from infected mother to her child through placenta. So people who are at high risk of getting this infection include individuals who have multiple sexual partners, drug addicts who take drugs intravenously, individuals who require repeated blood transfusion, and children born to HIV infected mother. Okay, it's basic information. Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome acquired by the person during his lifetime, discovered first or reported first in 1981, killed 25 million people. Syndrome meaning a group of diseases or a group of symptoms caused by HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, immunovirus, human immunovirus, and it is this human immunovirus is a part of a retrovirus. It has a envelope enclosing its RNA genome, and the ways for transmission of HIV: sexual contact, blood transfusion from infected mother to a child through placenta, and wait a minute, Okay, then let's continue. AIDS, also known as acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, caused by HIV. It is a immunodeficiency syndrome acquired during the lifetime of an individual. It's not during birth. It's not acquired during birth, but during the lifetime of a person. It was first reported in 1981, killed more than 25 million people, caused by HIV, human immunovirus. It is a part of group of retroviruses which have envelope that covers their RNA genome. It is spread by sexual contact with infected person or by transfusion of contaminated blood and blood products, sharing of infected needles during in case or like as in case of intravenous drug abusers, and infected mother to her child through placenta. It is mostly seen in people having multiple sexual partners, drug addicts, individuals who require repeated blood transfusion, and children born to a HIV infected mother. Do you know when do people need repeated blood transfusion? Find out and make a list of such conditions. It is important to note that HIV/AIDS is not spread by mere touch or physical contact. It is not spread by mere touch or physical contact. It spreads only through bodily fluids. It is hence imperative for the physical and psychological well-being that the HIV/AIDS infected persons are not isolated from family and society. There is always a time lag between the infection and appearance of AIDS symptoms. This period may vary from a few months to many years, usually 5 to 10 years. After getting into the body of a person, the virus enters into macrophages where RNA genome of the virus replicates to form viral DNA with the help of the enzyme reverse transcriptase. Okay, basically, after entering into the person, what the virus does is it enters into the macrophages, basically a kind of immune cells. These macrophages, where RNA genome of the virus replicates to form viral DNA with the help of enzyme reverse transcriptase. Basically, it will use the machinery of the macrophages to create viral DNA, and this viral DNA gets incorporated into the host cell's DNA and directs the infected cells to produce virus particles. After this viral DNA is created, it will integrate into the host genome, that is a macrophage genome, and it gets incorporated into the host cell's DNA, and it directs up, and this DNA gets transcription of this specific DNA happens repeatedly, and this will lead to the formation of infected cells to produce virus particles. Some virus particles will be manufactured using the cell's machinery. The macrophages continue to produce virus and in this way act like HIV factory. Simultaneously, HIV enter into helper T lymphocytes, replicates and produce progeny viruses. These HIV viruses are very clever. They actually go to the immune system itself. They will affect the immune system cells itself and will replicate using the immune system cells and lead to more virus formation. They will attack both macrophages and T cells, enters into T cells, replicates and produce progeny viruses. The progeny virus released into the blood attack other T lymphocytes. This is repeated, leading to progressive decrease in the number of T helper cells in the body. of the infected person. Basically, they will attack the T lymphocytes and macrophages, and this will lead to the death of the T lymphocytes, I believe. So in such a case, the as the T lymphocytes keeps on reducing in the infected person's body. During this kind of time, during this period, the person suffers from bouts of fever, diarrhea, weight loss due to decrease in number of helper T cells. The person starts suffering from infections that could have been otherwise overcome, such as those due to bacteria, especially due to mycobacterium, virus, fungi, and even parasites like toxoplasma. The patient becomes so immunodeficient because the lack of T cells which will die, macrophages which will also die. So they will lack so much immunity that she is unable to protect himself or herself against these infections. A widely used diagnostic test for AIDS is enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay called as ELISA. Enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay. Treatment of AIDS with antiretroviral drugs is only partially effective. They can only prolong the life of the patient but cannot prevent death, which is inevitable. Prevention of AIDS. As AIDS has no cure, prevention is the best option. Moreover, HIV infection more often spreads due to conscious behavior patterns and is not something that happens inadvertently, like pneumonia or typhoid. Pneumonia spreads through air, it's an airborne disease, whereas typhoid spreads through contaminated air and water. I'm not air, contaminated air, I mean water and food. So, because of that, AIDS is not such a highly infectious disease. If it was, it would have been very, very dangerous and a disaster for the society. So, good thing it is not so infectious. Although it has no cure. It is something the spreading we can like the spreading of the AIDS we can prevent easily, or we can try to avoid when we have our intentions. Of course, infection in blood transfusion patients, newborns from mother, etc., may take place due to poor monitoring. The only excuse may be in ignorance, and it has been rightly said, don't die of ignorance. In our country, the National AIDS Control Organization, NACO, and other non-governmental organizations, NGOs, are doing a lot to educate people about AIDS. WHO, that is World Health Organization, has started a number of programs to prevent the spreading of HIV infection, making blood from blood banks safe from HIV, ensuring the use of only disposable needles and syringes in public and private hospitals and clinics, free distribution of condoms, controlling drug abuse, advocating safe sex, and promoting regular checkups for HIV in susceptible populations are some steps taken by the World Health Organization. Infection with HIV or AIDS is something that should not be hidden, since then the infection may spread to more people. HIV/AIDS infected people need help and sympathy instead of being shunned by the society. Unless society recognizes it as a problem to be dealt with in a collective manner, the chances of wider spread of the disease increase manyfold. It is a malady that can only be tackled by the society and medicinal fraternity acting together to prevent the spreading of the disease. That's about AIDS. Now, coming to the next very dangerous disease, cancer. Cancer is cancer is one of the most dreaded diseases of human beings and is a major cause of death all over the globe. More than a million Indians suffer from cancer, and a large number of them die from it annually. The mechanisms that underlie development of cancer or oncogenic transformation of cells, its treatment and control have been some of the most intense areas of research in biology and medicine. In our body, cell growth and differentiation is highly controlled and regulated in cancer cells. There is a breakdown of these regulatory mechanism. Normal cells show a property called contact inhibition, by virtue of which contact with cells inhibit their uncontrolled growth. Okay. Basically, in India or all over the world, not India, for human beings, cancer is one of the most dangerous and most feared diseases in human beings. It is a major cause of death all over the world. In India alone, there are millions of people, or a million of people. There's 1 million, 10 lakh people, approximate value of people suffering from cancer. And large number of people suffering from cancer die every year. The mechanisms of cancer that underlie development of cancer, transformation of cells, its treatment and control have been some of the most intense area of research in biology and medicine. Okay, because it is very dangerous, it is one of the most researched fields as well. In our body, I think we forgot something in AIDS. Let's check the diagram. We forgot the diagram in AIDS. Okay, let's see the diagram and then go to cancer. Replication of the retrovirus. Basically, retrovirus, viral protein coat, viral RNA core. Viral infects normal cell. This is an animal cell, most likely a T blood cell. T cell, if it was AIDS virus, it is a plasma virus. There is not much mechanism in AIDS. There's not much understanding in AIDS. Basically, AIDS is a HIV virus. It's caused by HIV virus. It's human immunovirus, and what this virus does is it will attack both macrophages and T blood cells, and it will continue to replicate in the T blood cells. After some time, it will burst the T blood cells, and it will, after the replication is done, many viruses will be formed, many replications of the viruses will be formed. These viruses will attack all other T blood cells. After attacking all the T blood cells, it will destroy all the T blood cells, and it will completely reduce the patient. It will completely get rid of all the immunity of the patient. The patient will be lacking all kind of immunity. So because of that, because he is lacking immunity, the only thing AIDS affects is immunity. It's not directly in a direct way. If the patient is completely isolated from all pathogens and only AIDS, I believe there is no way the patient is fatally affected. If he is isolated completely and in an ideal manner, which is not possible in the real world, where because of loss of immunity, the person will have many diseases infecting him that actually do the harm or danger. Okay, let's see the diagram. They'll enter the cell. Viral RNA is introduced into the cell, and this viral RNA will produce a viral DNA using reverse transcriptase. This viral RNA will integrate into the host genome. Viral DNA incorporates into the host genome, and using the transcription mechanism, new viral DNA is produced by the infected cell. mRNA. This mRNA, from this mRNA, new viruses is produced. New viruses can infect other cells. Infected cell can survive while viruses are being replicated and released. Only by the time it is surviving, it can only survive when viruses are replicating. After that, it will die. Now coming to cancer, In our body, cell growth and differentiation is highly controlled and regulated. In cancer cells, what is cancer? Cancer is the and abnormal and irregular non-regulated growth of cells. Abnormal and non-regulated growth of cells is called as cancer. Normally in our body, all the cells are completely controlled of cell growth and differentiation. It's highly controlled and regulated. But that is not the case in cancer cell. In cancer cell, there is a breakdown of these regulatory mechanism. Normal cell show a property called contact inhibition, by virtue of which contact with other cell inhibits their uncontrolled growth. Basically, like if there is a cluster of cells, let's assume this is a cluster of cells. There is also a small cell here. There is a growing cell here. Let's assume it's growing. This is a normal cell. It will grow till, like, I'll draw the cells again. It will grow till it is completely fitted in the space, like this. This is the maximum growth of the cell, where because it is touching the other cells, there is a it is because it is touching the other cell, it will stop growing. It will understand that it is the maximum growth of the cell, growth of itself, that is possible without hindering the other cell. In our body, cell growth and differentiation is highly controlled. In cancer cells, there is a breakdown of the regulatory mechanism. Normal cells show a property called contact inhibition, by virtue of which, or like through which, contact with other cells inhibits their uncontrolled growth. Here, when they are small, they will grow uncontrollably, uncontrollably they will grow, like they'll grow rapidly. But when they touch other cells here outside, normal cells will stop growing. They'll understand that there is a maximum they can grow, so they will stop growing. But that is not the case for a cancerous cell. For a cancerous cell, this regulatory mechanism, that is a contact inhibition mechanism, is not there. This There will be a breakdown of all these kind of regulatory mechanism. If there is a breakdown of all kind of regulatory mechanism, there will only be uncontrolled growth. Cancer cells appear to have lost this property. As a result of this, cancerous cells just continue to divide, rising to masses of cells called tumors. Basically, in a cancerous cell, it will be something like this. This single cell will push all the other cells, and it will start growing, continue to divide and grow rapidly, pushing all the cells. This rapid growth of cells, this cluster of cells, is called as tumor, a very famous word. As a result of this, cancerous cells just divide, rising to masses of cells or clusters of cells called as tumors. Tumors are of two types: benign and malignant. Benign tumors and malignant tumors. Benign tumors normally remain confined to their original location and do not spread to other parts of the body and cause little damage. Basically, when let's assume there's a certain benign tumor, meaning they do not divide uncontrollably. Benign tumors are masses of cells, clusters of cells, that that occur in places that do not need such a concentration of cell. There'll just be like a protrusion on the hand or somewhere else. There'll just be a mass of cells. There will be extra part of mass of cell that can be easily removed by surgery, and they won't grow. They do not have the ability to spread or continuously divide. They are just like an extra flesh of the body that got that was grown, and it can be easily removed through surgery and other tactics. But the real problem comes from the malignant tumors. The malignant tumors, on the other hand, are masses of proliferating reproducing cells called neoplastic or tumor cells. These cells grow very rapidly, invading and damaging the surrounding normal tissues. As these cells actively divide and grow, they also starve the normal cells by competing for vital nutrients. As they continue to grow, they need nutrients for continued growth. So obviously they need to get nutrients from other cells or from blood. So they will continue to take all the nutrition and starve all the other normal cells. Cells slouched from such tumors reach distant sites through blood, and wherever they get lodged in the body, they start a new tumor there. This property is called as metastasis. It is the most feared property of malignant tumors. Maybe if this property was not there, cancer might have been easier to treat with, because this metastasis, if there was no metastasis, let's assume there is a tumor in the hand. Even if it's a meta I mean, even if it's like a malignant tumor that is rapidly growing, if it did not escalate beyond that point, at the highest at the highest like difficulty or highest or most critical phase, the only thing lost would be the whole hand, nothing more, or only the part where the tumor is there. But the problem comes with this metastasis ability of the tumor. Through blood, these tumor cells which are growing will have contact with the blood, and these cells will get into the blood and go to other places as well. They will go to other places and get attached to other different places, and there again they start this process. It's like a cycle, and there as well they continue to divide. This ability is called metastasis and is the most feared property of malignant tumors. Okay, causes of cancer: transformation of normal cells into cancerous neoplastic cells may be induced by physical, chemical, or biological agents. These agents are called as carcinogens. We saw uh, allergy causing agents are called as allergens. Cancer causing agents are carcinogens. Mutagen causing agents are mutagens. Gens. Carcinogens: transformation of normal cells into tumor. Gamma rays, non-ionizing radiations like UV rays cause DNA damage, leading to neoplastic transformation. The chemical carcinogens present in tobacco smoke have been identified as major cause of lung cancer. Cancer causing viruses called oncogenic viruses have genes called viral oncogenes. Furthermore, several genes called cellular oncogenes, CONC, or proto-oncogenes have been identified in normal cells, which when activated under certain conditions could lead to oncogenic transformation of cells. Okay, what these carcinogens can be: they can be X-rays, gamma rays, or even ionizing radiations like X-rays or gamma rays. It can be the high energy radiations like X-rays and gamma rays, which ionize, which have the ionization property, or even certain UV rays that come from the sun, which are non-ionizing as well. which these radiations cause DNA damage, leading to neoplastic transformation of the cells. That is one of the cause. And if we talk about chemical carcinogens, the carcinogens which are present in tobacco smoke, if we take there, have been identified. There are certain chemicals in the tobacco smoke which will lead to lung cancer. They are called carcinogens because they cause lung cancer. And even viruses, certain oncogenic viruses cause cancer that can be through viral oncogenes. These they have certain genes called as viral oncogenes. Several genes, cellular oncogenes or proto-oncogenes, have been identified in the normal cells, which when activated under certain conditions could lead to oncogenic transformation of cells. Okay. And biological agents, we saw about physical or basically radiations, chemical through tobacco. Then biologically, there are certain viruses called as oncogenic viruses. They have a certain DNA called oncogenic DNA or oncogenic genes, which may incorporate into the host's genome and may result in like rapid division of the cell. That is what a tumor is or a cancer is. So that is a cause, like biological viruses which have a certain viral DNA which will get incorporated into the genome of the host, and it will make the cell, it will alter the DNA through addition, and it will cause a cell to divide rapidly. These are called oncogenic viruses. And the second type of biological cause is that it has been found that in the cells there are certain genes called cellular oncogenes or proto-oncogenes. These genes, when triggered or when activated under certain conditions, will lead to formation of oncogenic transformation, meaning tumorous cell. That will lead the when these certain oncogenic genes or protogenes are activated, proto-oncogenes are activated, they will cause the cells to lose the ability. I mean, to lose the ability or to lose regulatory responses or make them divide rapidly. These are the factors that cause or basically carcinogens. Now, cancer detection and diagnosis. Cancer detection and diagnosis. Early detection of cancers is essential as it allows the disease to be treated successfully. In many cases, we saw that main problem with malignant tumors is metastasis. The longer the tumor is spread, the more places it will get transported via the blood, and more places it will get attached, and more the cancerous places. So the earlier the detection of the cancerous cells, the easier we can remove them and detect for further cells. Cancer detection is based on biopsy and histopathological studies of the tissue and blood, and bone marrow test for increased cell counts. In the case of leukemias, in biopsy, a piece of the suspected tissue cut into thin section is stained and examined under microscope by a pathologist. Techniques like radiography, CT, MRI are very useful to detect cancers of the internal organs. Basically, they will take, in cases of outside tissue, they will take the tissue, they will cut it into smaller pieces, and they will stain it and identify under microscope, observe under microscope. And another way is X-ray, radiography, computed tomography, CT scanning, MRI scanning, magnetic resonance imaging. If we cannot cut the tissue, like if it is in internal organs like heart or kidney or whatever it might be, we can use MRI scanning to identify the tumors. Computed tomography uses X-rays to generate a three-dimensional image of the internals of an object. MRI uses strong magnetic field and non-ionizing radiations to accurately detect pathological and physiological changes in the living tissue. Antibodies against cancer-specific antigens are also used for detection of certain cancers. Techniques of molecular biology can be applied to detect genes in individuals which inherited susceptibility to certain cancers. Identification of such genes which predispose an individual to certain cancers may be very helpful in prevention of cancers. Even molecular biology, if we take about genes, we can identify certain genes through antibodies, or basically two methods I mentioned. First, we take cancer specific antibodies through which we can detect certain cancers. That is the first method. Second is techniques of molecular biology. We basically understand the genes, and here genes, if we identify the genes of an individual which have susceptibility to certain cancers, if we identify them, it is easier to understand or prevent cancers. Such individual may be advised to avoid exposure to particular carcinogens to which they are susceptible. Example, tobacco, smoke in case of lung cancer. Treatment of cancer. The common approaches for treatment of cancer are surgery, radiation therapy, and immunotherapy. In radiotherapy, tumor cells are irradiated lethally. Basically, in a radiotherapy, basically they will identify the tumor cells and they will send very highly energetic radiations. They will have large energy radiations to completely uh, just burn out the tumor cells. They will just burn out the tumor cells using radiation, irradiated lethally, taking but they will only kill or like destroy the radiations will kill only the tumor cells, but they will not harm the surrounding tissue. They'll only kill the tumor cells, taking proper care of normal tissue surrounding the tumor mass. Several chemotherapeutic drugs are used to kill cancerous cells, not only through radiations, even chemotherapy, like we can take some certain drugs to kill cancerous cells. Some of these are specific for particular tumors. Majority of drugs have side effects like hair loss, anemia, etc. Most cancers are treated by a combination of surgery, like removal of the cell mass, radiotherapy, and chemotherapy. Tumor cells have been shown to avoid detection and destruction by immune system. Therefore, the patients are given substances called biological response modifiers such as alpha interferon, which activates their immune system and helps in destroying the tumor. Basically, alpha interferons are substances which you saw, which are released by the protein released by cells to alert the other surrounding cells. But because cancers are so clever and can escape the immunity, this interferon are artificially injected into the system of the human to artificially activate the immune system, to alert the immune system. That is one thing. Now that's about cancer. Now coming to the last but not the least topic of this chapter, that is drugs and alcohol abuse. Surveys and statistics show that use of drugs and alcohol has been on the rise, especially among the youth. This is really a cause of concern as it could result in many harmful effects, as we saw before. Tobacco smoke, which acted as a carcinogen to cause lung cancer, and there are many other bad effects that are there for alcohol as well. If the abusive alcohol consumption is very dangerous. Proper education and guidance would enable the youth to safeguard themselves against these dangerous behavior patterns and follow healthy lifestyles. The drugs which are commonly abused are called, are opioids, cannabinoids, and coca alkaloids. Majority of these are obtained from flowering plants, those are angiosperms. Some are even obtained from fungi. Okay, it's important to remember the names of these commonly abused drugs. Those are opioids, cannabinoids, and coca alkaloids obtained from flowering plants. Opioids are the drugs which bind to specific opioid receptors present in our central nervous system and gastrointestinal tract. Heroin, commonly called as smack, is chemically diacetyl morphine, which is a white, odorless, bitter, crystalline compound. This is obtained by acetylation of morphine, which is extracted from the latex of poppy plant called Papaver somniferum, generally taken by snorting and injection. Heroin is a depressant and slows down bodily functions. Let's talk about opioids here, one of the abused drugs. These opioids are drugs. These opioids bind to specific uh, receptors in our brain or central nervous system. They have specific receptors in the brain and central nervous system, along with gastrointestinal tract, where these opioids will continue to go and bind there. And heroin is obtained from acetylation of morphine. It is a white, odorless, bitter crystalline compound. It is extracted from the latex of the Papaver somniferum plant, of the poppy plant, Papaver somniferum. It is generally taken by snorting. Inhalation through the nose is called as snorting, and even by injection, direct intravenous injection. And what the function of heroin is, it is a depressant and slows down bodily functions. This is an opium poppy where opioids are produced. This is the chemical structure of morphine. After acetylation will become heroin. And heroin is commonly called as mag. It's a bitter crystalline compound. Cannabinoids are a group of chemicals which interact with cannabinoid receptors present principally in the brain. Natural cannabinoids are obtained from inflorescences of plant, cannabis sativa, the flower tops, leaves, and the resin of the cannabis plant are used in various recombinations to produce marijuana, hashish, charas, and ganja, generally taken by inhalation and oral injection. These are known for their effects on cardiovascular system of the body. Okay, basically cannabinoids are a group of chemicals. These these cannabinoids, as opioid will bind to the opioid receptor in the brain or the central nervous system and gastrointestinal tract, these cannabinoids have special receptors in the brain as well, and these cannabinoids function is to go and bind there. There are the natural cannabinoids are obtained from the inflorescences of plant cannabis sativa. There is a plant called cannabis sativa, and from the flowers of the plant, that is inflorescences of the plant, these cannabinoids can be obtained. The flower tops, leaves, resin of this cannabis sativa plant are used in various combinations to produce the common drugs. Those are marijuana, hashish, charas, ganja. Generally, these are generally taken by inhalation. We can call it as snorting or oral injection. These are known for their effects on cardiovascular system. Basically, they affect the cardiovascular system, that is the heart. or the blood supply is a skeletal structure of a cannabinoid molecule. These are the leaves of the cannabis sativa. Coca alkaloid or cocaine is obtained from coca plant Erythroxylum coca, native to South America. It interferes with transport of the neurotransmitter dopamine. Cocaine, normally called coke or crack, is usually snorted. It has a potent stimulating action on central nervous system, producing a sense of euphoria and increased energy. Excessive dosage of cocaine causes hallucinations. Other well-known plants with hallucinogenic properties are Atropa belladonna and Datura. These days, cannabinoids are also being abused by some sports persons. Okay, before that, let's see about this coca alkaloid. Or coca alkaloid is mostly popularly known as cocaine, coke, or crack, and it is a plant native to South America. The plant name is Erythroxylum coca. Erythroxylum coca, it's a plant native to South America. It interferes with transport of the neurotransmitter dopamine. Dopamine is called the basically the happy hormone, and these interfere with the transporter of neurotransmitter dopamine. This cocaine is normally called as coke or crack, and it is usually snorted, inhaled through the nose, and it has a very potent stimulating effect on the central nervous system. Basically, the people who inhale this cocaine will have a sense of euphoria, meaning extreme happiness, and they will feel excess energy. And this excessive dosage of cocaine causes hallucinations. Other well-known plants with hallucinogenic effects are Atropa belladonna, even the common Datura plant. This is the flowering branch of Datura. These days, cannabinoids which have effect on cardiovascular system are even abused by some sports persons. Drugs like barbiturates, amphetamines, benzodiazepines, and other similar drugs that are normally used as medicines to help patients cope with mental illness like depression and insomnia are often abused. These are a few drug names: barbiturates, amphetamines, and benzodiazepines, and similar drugs. Actually, these are kind of medicines in regulated quantities. These drugs are medicines that help patients cope with mental illness or depression, or even insomnia. Insomnia is basically the sleeping sickness where the patient cannot sleep basically. These are often abused. Morphine is a very effective sedative and painkiller, and is very useful in patients who have undergone surgery. Several plants, fruits, and seeds having hallucinogenic property have been used for hundreds of years in folk medicine, religious ceremonies, and rituals all over the globe. When these are taken for purpose of other than medicinal use, or in amount slash frequency that impairs one physiological, or psychological functions, it is called as drug abuse. When these drugs, when in regulated quantities, can be used as medicines, but if they are taken in amounts that are large, or taken in frequencies that are very high, meaning very common use, like everyday use, every hour use, every second use, that kind of thing is not it. If that is the case, that is called as drug abuse. Smoking also paves the way to hard drugs. Tobacco has been used by human beings for more than 400 years. It is smoked, chewed using as a snuff. Tobacco contains a large number of chemical substances, including nicotine, an alkaloid. Nicotine stimulates adrenal gland to release adrenaline and noradrenaline into the blood circulation. This is called both both of which raise blood pressure and increase heart rate. Okay, basically what tobacco has, tobacco usually has an alkaloid substance called as nicotine, and what this nicotine does, it stimulates the adrenal gland to secrete adrenaline and noradrenaline, the fight or flight hormone, which will increase the blood pressure, increase the heart rate, etc. And this tobacco is consumed by either smoking or chewing, etc. Smoking is associated with increased incidence of cancer of the lung, we studied yesterday. I mean, in the previous section, urinary bladder and throat, bronchitis, emphysema, coronary heart disease, gastric ulcer, etc. We already like smoking associated with increased incident of cancer of lung. Okay, urinary bladder and throat, bronchitis, basically the inflammation of the bronchi or the alveoli is called as bronchitis, the severe inflammation which may lead to asthma. It's called as bronchitis. Emphysema is basically, we have studied about this in class 11 respiration chapter. Basically, what happens is the alveoli, which have the outer epithelium, inner basement membrane, and endo another inner layer. I don't remember the name, but these three layers act as the gas exchange. They will help in gas exchange. But during emphysema, during excess smoking, the basal membrane is damaged, and due to which gas exchange is reduced, and the person will have hard time respiring or breathing. They will have breathing problems. That is called emphysema. And coronary heart disease, gastric ulcer, etc. Tobacco chewing is associated with increased risk of cancer of the oral cavity. Smoking increases the carbon monoxide content in blood and reduces the concentration of hemo-bound oxygen. Basically, normally we know in blood circulation chapter, we saw about how blood is transported through oxygen, I mean through hemoglobin, or basically red blood cells. Red blood cells have a special pigment called hemoglobin, which oxygen binds to and is transported via the blood. Even carbon dioxide can bind to hemoglobin and is transported via the blood. But this oxygen and carbon dioxide binding to the hemoglobin is a temporary binding, and it is solely for transport purpose. But that is not the case for carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide can permanently bind to the hemoglobin, thus reducing the capacity of the hemoglobin molecule to transport more oxygen. This causes oxygen deficiency in the body. When one buys packets of cigarettes, one cannot miss the statutory warning that is present on the packaging, which warns against smoking and says how it is injurious to health. Yet, smoking is very prevalent in society, both among young and old. Knowing the dangers of smoking and chewing tobacco and its addictive nature, the youth and old need to avoid these habits. Any addict requires counseling and medical help to get rid of the habit. Okay, that's about drug abuse. Okay, now that's a subtopic. Now coming to the first subtopic, It is adolescence and drug abuse. Adolescence means both a period and a process during which a child becomes mature in terms of his her attitude and belief for effective participation in society. The period between 12 and 18 years of age may be thought of as adolescence period. In other words, adolescence is a bridge linking childhood and adulthood. Adolescence is accompanied by several biological and behavioral changes. Adolescence thus is a very vulnerable phase of mental and psychological development of an individual. Curiosity, need for adventure, excitement, experimentation constitute common causes which motivate youngster toward drug and alcohol abuse. Alcohol usage. A child's natural curiosity motivates him or her to experiment. This complicated further by effects that might be perceived as benefits of alcohol or drug use. Thus, the first of use of drugs or alcohol may be out of curiosity or experimentation, but later the child starts using these to escape facing problems. Of late, stress from pressures to excel in academics examinations has played a significant role in persuading the youngsters to try alcohol and drugs. The perception among youth that it is cool or progressive to smoke, use drugs or alcohol is also in a way a major cause of youth to start these habits. Television, movies, newspapers, internet also help to promote this perception. Other factors that have been seen to associated with drug and alcohol abuse among adolescents are unstable or unsupportive family structures and peer pressure. There's not much explanation there. It's very common knowledge. Every movie's starting, every cigarette packet's heading is also everything is here. Addiction and dependence. Because of the perceived benefits, drugs are frequently used repeatedly. The most important thing which one fails to realize is the inherent addictive nature of alcohols and drugs. Addiction is a psychological attachment to a certain effect such as euphoria and as temporary feeling of well-being associated with drugs and alcohol. These drive people to take them and even when they are not needed or even when their use becomes self-destructive. With repeated use of drugs, the tolerance level of the receptors present in our body increases. Consequently, the receptors respond only to higher doses of drugs or alcohol, leading to greater intake of an addiction. However, it should be clearly borne in mind that use of these drugs, even once, can be forerunner to addiction. Thus, the addictive potential of drugs and alcohols pull the user into a vicious circle leading to their regular use, abuse, from which she may not be able to get out. In the absence of any guidance or counseling, the person gets addicted and becomes dependent on their use. Dependence is the tendency of the body to manifest a characteristic and unpleasant withdrawal syndrome if regular dose of drugs alcohol is abruptly discontinued. This characterized by anxiety, shakiness, nausea, sweating, which may be relieved when use is resumed again. In some cases, withdrawal syndrome can be severe and even life-threatening, and the person may need medical supervision. Dependence lead to patient to ignore all social norms in order to get sufficient funds to satiate his her needs. These result in many social adjustment problems. Effects of drug alcohol abuse. The immediate adverse effects of drugs and alcohol abuse are manifested in the form of reckless behavior, vandalism, violence. Excessive doses of drugs may lead to coma and death. due to respiratory failure, heart failure, or cerebral hemorrhage. A combination of drugs or their intake along with alcohol generally results in overdosing and even deaths. The most common warning signs of drug and alcohol abuse among youth include drop in academic performance, unexplained absence from school college, lack of interest in personal hygiene, withdrawal, isolation, depression, fatigue, aggressive and rebellious behavior, deteriorating relationship with family and friends, loss of interest in hobbies, change in sleeping and eating habits, fluctuations in weight, appetite, etc. These are all signs and also sometimes causes for alcohol and drug abuse in a person. There may even be some far fetching implications of drug alcohol abuse. If an abuser is unable to get money to buy drugs, alcohol, he she will she may turn to stealing, robbery. The adverse effects are not just restricted to the person who is using drugs or alcohol. At times, a drug alcohol addict becomes a cause of mental and financial distress to his/her entire family and friends. Those who take drugs intravenously, direct injection into the vein using a needle and syringe, are much likely to acquire serious infections like AIDS and hepatitis B. The viruses which are responsible for these diseases are transferred from one person to another by sharing of infected needles and syringes. Both AIDS and hepatitis B infections are chronic infections and ultimately fatal. Both can be transmitted through sexual contact or infected blood. The use of alcohol during adolescence may also have long-term effects. It could lead to heavy drinking in adulthood. The chronic use of drugs and alcohol damages nervous system and liver cirrhosis. The use of drugs and alcohol during pregnancy is also known to adversely affect the fetus, that is the child. Another misuse of drug is what certain sports person do to enhance their performance, like athletes. They misuse narcotic analgesics, anabolic steroids, diuretics, and certain hormones in sports to increase muscle strength and bulk and to promote aggressiveness, and as a result increase the athletic performance. The side effects of the use of anabolic steroids in females include masculinization features like males, increased aggressiveness, mood swings, depression, abnormal menstrual cycles, excessive hair growth on the face and body, enlargement of the clitoris, deepening of the voice. In males, it includes acne, increased aggressiveness, mood swings, depression, reduction of size of the testicles, decreased sperm production, potential for kidney and liver dysfunction, breast enlargement, premature baldness, enlargement of the prostate gland. These effects may be permanent with prolonged use. In the adolescent male or female, severe facial and body acne and premature closure of the growth centers of the long bones may result in stunted growth. Prevention and control. The age-old adage of prevention is better than cure holds true here as well. It is also true that habits such as smoking, taking drug or alcohol are more likely to be taken up at a young age, more during adolescence. Hence, it is best to identify the situation that may push an adolescent towards use of drugs or alcohol abuse and to take remedial measures well in time. In this regard, the parents and the teachers have special responsibility. Parenting that combines with high levels of nurturance and consistent discipline has been associated with a lowered risk of substance abuse. Some of the measures mentioned here would particularly be useful for prevention and control of alcohol drug abuse among adolescents. Avoid under peer pressure. Every child has her own choice and personality, which should be respected and nurtured. A child should not be pushed unduly to perform beyond his or her threshold limits, be it studies, sports, or other activities. Education and counseling, educating and counseling the person to face problems and stresses and to accept disappointments and failures as a part of life. It would be worthwhile to channelize the child's energy into healthy pursuits like sports, reading, music, yoga, and other extracurricular activities. Seeking help from parents and peers. Help from parents and peers should be sought immediately so that they can guide appropriately. Help may even be sought from close and trusted friends. Besides getting proper advice to sort out their problems, this would help young to vent their feelings of anxiety and guilt. Looking for danger signs, alert parents and teachers need to look for the identify the danger signs discussed above, where appetite, habits, aggressiveness, rebelliousness, all the activities which we discussed above. Even friends, if they find someone using drugs or alcohol, should not hesitate to bring this to notice of the parents or teacher in the best interest of the person concerned. Appropriate measures would then be required to diagnose the malady and the underlying causes. This would help in initiating proper remedial steps or treatment. Seeking professional and medical help. A lot of help is available in the form of highly qualified psychologists, psychiatrists, and de-addiction and rehabilitation programs to help individuals who have unfortunately got into quagmire of drug alcohol abuse. With such help, the affected individual with sufficient efforts and willpower can get rid of problem completely and lead to a perfectly normal and healthy life. That's the chapter. Let's see the summary. Health is not the absence of disease, it is a state of complete physical, mental, social, and physiological well being. Diseases like typhoid, cholera, pneumonia, fungal infections on skin, malaria, and many other are a major cause of distress to human beings. Vector-borne diseases like malaria, especially one caused by Plasmodium falciparum, if not treated, may prove to be fatal. Besides personal cleanliness and hygiene, public health measures like proper disposal of waste, decontamination of drinking water, control of vectors like mosquitoes, and immunization are very helpful in preventing these diseases. Our immune system plays a major role in preventing these diseases when we are exposed to disease causing agents. The innate defenses of our body, like skin, mucous membranes, antimicrobial substances present in our tears, saliva, and the phagocytic cells, help to block the entry of pathogens into our body. As the pathogens succeed in gaining entry into our body, specific antibodies, humoral immune response, and cell-mediated immune response, serve to kill these pathogens. Immune system has memory on subsequent exposure to some pathogens. The immune response is rapid and more intense. This forms the basis of protection afforded by vaccination and immunization. Among other diseases, AIDS and cancer kill a large number of individuals worldwide. AIDS caused by the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, is a fatal but can be prevented if certain precautions are taken. Many cancers are curable if detected early and appropriate therapeutic measures are taken. Of late, drug and alcohol abuse among Youth and adolescence is becoming another cause of concern because of the addictive nature of alcohol and drugs. Their perceived benefits like relief from stress, a person may try taking this in the face of peer pressure, examinations related and competition related stresses. In doing so, he or she may get addicted to them. Education about their harmful effects, counseling, and seeking immediate professional and medical help would totally relieve the individual from the evils. That's with the chapter.